man.
Ain't this what they've been waiting for?
Sir. What's up? Mindset Therapy, Real Talk Podcast, baby.
I used to pray for times like this, to rhyme like this, so I had to grind like that, to shine like
No
this.
Diddy though, no Diddy.
That boy wild.
Diddy.
That boy wild.
Nightmares come true.
Come on,
It's time to marry the game, and I said, yeah, I do. If you want it, you gotta see it with a clear eye view. That shorty, she tryna bless me like I said I do. Like a nigga sneeze, nigga please.
What's up? It's 7 o'clock, baby. You know how we do it, man. Y'all can be anywhere else, but y'all here with us at Mindset Therapy, Real Talk Podcast, man. Here at Mindset Therapy, we help men, women, and children believe in themselves again. We offer 7 simple strategies to developing a positive mindset, and we stand on that. What's up, Wine? What's happening, man? I got a special guest on today, man. My man, I've been trying to run him down for a minute. Go finally, I got my hands on him, and I can't let go. You heard me? So we gonna chop it up. We gonna let y'all get to know this fine gentleman, bro. This brother is very, very, very involved in what he's doing. He's very a real trooper. You know what I'm saying? He's a powerful believer in God, no doubt. Got to connect with those, those brothers, because when I got somebody I can pull off. You feel me? That's how that work. You know what I'm saying? Each one, teach one, reach one. Let's get it. So check this out, man. We've been doing this thing life after time, man, and it's been real. It's been a real blessing to me. You know what I'm saying? Not just a blessing to me, it's been a blessing to the brothers and sisters that's having the opportunity to tell the people their experience of being behind the walls for X amount of years and coming home, re-entering society after, 10, 20 years, you know what I'm saying? But with the opportunity to get it right, the opportunity to make things, how can I say, not rebuild the bridges we burnt, but kind of start on some new ground. You know what I'm saying? Because some bridges we can't rebuild. They burned up and they flame, they gone. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we got to understand that we have to start on new ground. But if you don't know, you don't know. So that's why we here. That's why we here to try to help the re-entry situation go a little bit better than it has been going in past times, man. And I'm not gonna take too much of the time, bro. I'm gonna let my man introduce himself and tell the people a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, bro. First and foremost, man, thank you for having me.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah, brother. So, hey, one of the things you said was, about coming out and trying to get things right. You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's why that name is right there. That rectified right there.
Rectified.
You know what I mean? Hey,
yes,
man, God gave me that word when I was reading the Bible, man, while I was locked up. So it comes from Romans 5:10. You know what I mean? And it's about Jesus reconciling us, making us right with God. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what he's talking about in there in that scripture. So as soon as I read that, boom, it gave me that word. That writing actually came from my partner. So he real dark skinned black dude, and he go by Trey, right? And he was gonna get a T with a 3 over it tattooed on top of his head,
right?
And so I told him, I said, bro, I don't know why you gonna get it on top of your head. I said, because ain't nobody gonna be able to see it. You too dark. He too dark. Ain't nobody gonna be able to see it, I said, no, ain't that? I said, man, and I don't even know what made me say it, because I ain't never had a job a day in my life before I went to prison, really. You know what I mean? But I told him, I said, when we go home, we're going to have to get some jobs. You know what I mean? So I told him, I said, man, let me have that pattern. And keep in mind, I don't even know why I asked him why I needed that pattern at the time, right?
Right.
And this is the beginning of my walk, of my faith walk. So later that night, I'm reading my word before I go to bed. Mm-hmm. Boom, I come across that scripture. I'm looking at that tattoo pattern, right? Mm. As God gave me that scripture, he gave me that word rectified, gave me the spelling and everything. So the word right? So rectified right there means to make things right. The T on my design actually is a cross. So everything, and so the word rec comes before the cross. So everything before Christ, my life was a wreck. IED on the word means something's been done, it's finished. When Christ hung on the cross, he said it is finished. You know what I mean? So it's after, you know what I mean? So that's where it comes from. And then what he gave me, I'm just gonna jump into it. So
Go ahead.
then he gave me, that tattoo pattern, right? That T3, right? So he
Yes,
goes
sir.
by, his name is Travion. And he's the third, Travion the third. So that's why he wanted that T3. But as I'm looking at it, God gave it to me. Boom. He gave me T3, thinking things through. T to the third power. Know what I mean? Thinking things through. Helping
Three
kids see
T's.
helping
Three
kids see the
T's.
end result of a decision before they had to travel down that path. And the reason why most people, even adults, get into trouble because we don't properly think things through before we make a decision. You know what I'm saying? And so it's made off
You know,
emotion.
me and you hit it off for a reason, man. We we
Amen.
we we we, we connected for a reason, bro. That thinking is, man, say,
Yeah.
bro. The mind, bro, is a terrible thing to waste. But guess what? You can have all the mind you want if you don't apply it.
Your mind. You know what I mean? The mind
Mhm.
is the most important thing.
That's right.
It froze.
You got me.
Hold on, I'm gonna put my phone on do not disturb. There we go. So it say be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
And so the only way you can do that is by putting new stuff in it. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? You got to start putting new stuff in it. It's just like this bottle right here, right? If I set this water bottle under a slow drip of some Coke, right? Just a slow drip, just a little drip at a time. It's going to take a while, but eventually that Coke is going to displace all that water. The water is
Mhm.
going to be pushed up out of there, right? Now this bottle is no longer going to be filled with water. It's going to be filled with Coke.
Cool.
Same thing for your mind. All that junk and garbage that we got in there from the way we grew up, the word is called acculturated, which means to be shaped and molded by the environments that we either grew up in, work
Hmm.
in, or whatever. So until we start, and it's a slow process. We want everything overnight, but when you get into that word and you start reading books, like yours, or like something like this right here, or like something like this right here, Atomic
Wow.
Habits. You know what I'm saying? Until you
Yes,
start reading
sir.
stuff like that, right? You can't. As you do that, then you're slowly putting in all that stuff, and then slowly all that other stuff starts to get
Mhm.
pushed out. Starts to
Yeah.
get pushed out. You know what I mean? So that was my mission coming home from prison. Now my introduction. So my name's David Stokely. I go by Rectified. When I came home from the penitentiary 9 years ago in 2016, man, I told God, I said, man, if you do two things for me, if you remove all this hate and this anger that I had. Now keep in mind, when I say hate and anger, I mean towards my family and the world. I wasn't one of you racist white dudes down there in the penitentiary, as you will.
Oh, you
You
white?
know, you know that. You know what I mean? I just want to be very clear when I say hate and anger. You know what I'm saying? Be
Look,
very
oh,
clear. You
I
know what
thought
I
you
mean?
was white.
When I say hate and anger for all the viewers, let's be
Right,
clear
right.
what bench I sat on. I sat on the black bench. I had a pass everywhere I go, anywhere I go. You know what I mean? And so I just look this way. I don't talk this way. And I
That's right.
walk a different way. But I and I came home, man, with my mindset, like, cause I got tired, man. My last couple of years in the penitentiary, I was like, man, I started seeing these youngsters come down there more and more. Now, when I say youngsters, that means because I have gotten older. You know what I mean? Keep in mind, I went in when I was 24. I came home when I was 34. So from a young man, now I'm more of a mature man, learned some things, seen some things, while I was down there. And so I'm trying to lace these cats up. I'm trying to let them know, like, hey man, don't be out here in all these games. In the penitentiary, you got people, they pass time doing anything and everything. And, a lot of boys be playing them punk games up in there, and they want to call it the gay game where they jumping up in the shower with their homeboy doing all this and all that. And all these youngsters like to play into all that stuff. You know what I mean? Think it's a game. Really, it's gay. I don't care if you playing or not. That's still
No,
gay.
no,
You know what I'm saying? And so I told him, I said, don't do that. I said, because, we call it breaking ice. Once you break ice, you can't go back. You know what I
can't go
mean?
back.
Can't go back. Once you break ice,
We
you can't go back.
look, we call it get once you get in that car, you can't get out.
Yeah, once you grin, you win.
Yeah.
So, so I'm trying to lace them up the right way. Like, hey man, don't entertain that nonsense because it's gonna bring you a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? You're gonna be fighting because one day that same dude you were playing with yesterday, he don't feel like playing today. And you coming to play. Now he mad, now y'all fighting. Y'all up under the stairs in that cell fighting. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to lace him up. And so I told him. And then that's when God had already gave me this, but I ain't started writing it yet. So as I'm working with these youngsters, he's giving it to me piece by piece, man, to try to help them out. So my partners in there, they used to call me, they used to call me Captain Saberholt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, hey man, give him a pass. Give him a pass. He's young. You know what I mean? They 19, 18, 20. You know what I mean? Coming down there. And you know how it goes, man. They try to manipulate them, get them to do some cluck stuff, whatever, whatever, or to make them try to prove themselves. And I'm like, man, look, you ain't got to do that. Go fade that heart check, show your paperwork, stay your butt up out the way. That's all you
Right.
got. Fade that heart check. You gotta do that. Show
Got
that
to do that.
paperwork. Show that paperwork and stay about the way. You know what I mean? If you gamble, make sure you can pay your debts. Cause I told him, I said, you gonna see me on that knock table. You gonna see me on the card table. You gonna see me on the basketball court, and you gonna see me gambling. But best believe, one, I can pay my debts. Two, I understand what comes with everything. You know what I'm saying? And I've already been here long enough to know who to sit down with and gamble with, against, play ball with. There's certain people I see them on the court, I ain't on the court. You know why? Because I already know them people. They
The
already
game.
got it up here. They ain't coming home. You know what I mean? Someone got 30, 40 years, ain't coming home, don't care. So, you get a hard foul on them, they say, no, you squabbling. You know what I mean? So when I was younger, I entertained it. It was whatever. When I first got down there, I didn't care. You know what I mean? So it was what it was. But as I got older, I'm like, nah, man, I got to start doing something. So God placed it upon my heart that whenever I came home, He was going to use me to help, one, deter these youngsters from even entertaining, doing anything that's going to get them down there. Two, as they come home, be able to pour into them and be like, look, man, I know you're scared because when you come home, you are nervous. You're scared, man, because guess what? That old you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be anymore. That new person that you became in prison, you don't know how to be that person in the world yet.
That's right.
You haven't put it into practice yet. In some ways you have, but not fully because you
Not
don't have
fully.
access to everything in there that you do out here.
That's right.
And so it sounds good. So like for me, I started little things that I could do. I stopped. So my last 3 years, man, it was rough. I'm just gonna keep it G. So I didn't masturbate. You know what I mean? I didn't buy any food from the child. My last 3 years, well, I say 2.5, right? I didn't buy no food in the child because I had these convictions on myself, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm trying to walk this way and try to be this when I go home. So I got to start putting things into practice now. You know what I mean? And I'll be the first to say, when I came home, shoot, I failed in some several ways, but
Yeah.
I never went back to crime. I never did that. I've maintained employment since I've been home, right? And I just took every bit of hustle that I ever had in the world doing the wrong thing and applied it to doing the right thing because my mindset's always been, I'm going to figure it out. And I'm just as smart as anybody in the room. I don't care if you got a ton of degrees or whatever. You can figure, I
Right.
guarantee you, if you give me enough time, I can figure out how to put that ship on the moon too. Just give me enough time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, and that's just what it is, man. So that's my heart. That's my passion. I'm a father. I got two daughters, 20 and 22 years old. Missed a lot of their life, in and out of the penitentiary, things like that. Just being locked up. 10 years in prison. Then before that, when I was young, I was in TDC boot camp, in and out of county jail. All those things when I was young, before the penitentiary. I've been doing that since I was 17. So
Mm.
up until 3 years ago,
Relate.
I'm 43 now. So from 17 to 40 years old, I was either on some kind of paper or I was locked up. From 17 to 40, I belong to the state in some way. And so
Wow.
now it's my personal mission just to stop that. Like people think I'm crazy when I tell them, man, my job is to try to put TDC out of business, or at least
That's right.
make them shut down a couple of units. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And the
That's
only
right.
way we can do that is by people stop going down there and people stop going back down there.
Putting
You
them
know,
out of work.
so
Putting
you
them out
got
of work.
you
Say,
want to put them out of work.
I heard you say when you first started, you say you dealt with a lot of hate, towards your family. Uh,
Yeah,
can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know a lot of people, and see why I think that's so significant, bro. Because when a lot of people come home, they feel like everybody owed them something,
yeah,
but they forgot about all the things they have done before they went in. You
Yup.
understand what I'm saying? So now they out, they done 10, 20 years. They feel like all that then disappeared. They feel like everybody owe them a bag, or everybody owe them a shakedown, or whatever they got in their mind. You feel me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So now when they don't get that, now they got this hate they've been having in their heart for their loved ones, but they never talked about it because guess what? He thought those burnt bridges just went away. But guess what? The debris still left because nobody cleared the field. It's
Yeah.
just burnt down. It's just burnt wood. You never cleaned the field out. So now you out here thinking everything you changed, but the world ain't changed.
Yup.
Everything it probably changed in a sense, but just because you change, people not going. They ain't got to believe you change. This will show me invite. We live in a microwave society for once. They want it and they want it quick.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to show them something. So just by your word, you come home, yeah, but I don't do that, man. You think the people gonna believe you? So that grows a lot of hate. Talk about that, man.
Yeah, man. So so my initial was I had a lot of hate and anger just towards my family. So when I was young, my mom, she had me at 17. So, and she never really took care of me like that. She just let me go with anybody and everybody. You know what I mean? So my mom, she was real abusive when she did have me. She'd beat the brakes off of me. I'm talking about for no reason. I'm talking about with a box fan. You remember box fans back when we was young? They was metal. They weren't plastic like they make them now. They
Right.
was metal. Man, that girl, she grabbed that thing and she was mad. Grease popped in the kitchen. I know now she had mental health, right? But when you're a
Right.
kid, you don't understand that. She come out that kitchen, grab that white handle on the top of that box fan that's plugged in, and grab it and swing at me. You know what I mean? Sometimes she would connect if I didn't see it. You know what I mean? And so, I just had a lot of hate like that. And then also, she used to palm me off like on my Aunt Sherry. Back then, my Aunt Sherry, she used to shoot dope, smoke crack, all those types of things. So I grew up seeing a lot of that type of stuff. Didn't know my dad. My dad never been in my life. I barely met him 6 years ago, you know. And so I just had all this damn hate. And I always believed in God as a creator because that just made sense as opposed to the Big Bang Theory and evolution and all that, right? Um, but I just didn't think he had nothing for me because of the cards I was dealt, right? I was like, all
No.
right, God, just ain't got nothing for me. You know what I'm saying? And so that's that part of the hate and anger. The second one, so when I came home, I didn't really have any hate and anger. I did have some expectations, right? And sometimes we have expectations, and those expectations that we set ourselves up for some kind of failure, right?
Hmm.
So my expectation is that they would see that I changed, right? And see that it was authentic over time, and they would start to change. Because when I came home, a lot of my family, they were still, messed up in the head. Some of them,
Right.
most of them still are. You know what I mean? And so my Aunt Sherry, this is probably the coldest thing that's ever been said to me in my 9 years home right now. My Aunt Sherry was at my granny's house, and she looked me dead in my face. And she told me, she said, because at this time I'm full time ministry. You know what I mean? Here you go. I was a missions coordinator for a nonprofit. When I came home, my first month home, they made me a missions coordinator because they seen that I was out here in these streets doing everything on my own, regardless. So I didn't need them, whatever. And so they were like, "Man, we want to make you the missions coordinator." So okay, I was like, "What do I do? I ain't know what to do." but I'm over here doing all this stuff, man.
Hey,
God, I was able to fly everywhere. I'm on church stages. I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm talking a different talk. I'm walking a different walk. And my Aunt Sherry looked me dead in my face. She said, "I wish you were the old you because I knew how to deal with the old you. I don't know how to talk or deal with the new you." But that wasn't a reflection. I took it personal at first. You know what I mean? But that wasn't a reflection on me. That was a reflection on where she's at and that she ain't grown.
that's
You know
right.
what I mean? And so that up until maybe a couple months ago, me and her ain't really talked. So I'm like, all right, if you want me to be the old me, I ain't got nothing to do with you. Right?
Right.
And then probably the most damaged relationship besides my two daughters is my sister. Before I went to prison, me and her were like this. To this day, like me and her, like if I call her or text her, she don't really pick up the phone. She's open to talking now, but the reason why she's so mad, she's like you left me out here to fend for myself. You know what I mean? Because growing up, I was her only protector. You know what I mean? I was the only protector. So when I went away, she was young. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, man, that's one of the things, man, with that hate and anger, man, because I knew that I carried so much of it that it was my downfall. You know what I mean? And so I just told him, I said, man, if you can remove that, I know I can be successful once I'm released from this place. You know?
Wow. So
Yeah.
you was destroying yourself from the inside with the hate.
Yeah, man, because I ain't care. You know how it goes. Like, we don't care if we live or die. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people say stuff like that, but I know a lot do mean it, but I know many more don't mean that. But me, I really didn't care. Like I didn't because I grew up being abused. All this, so like pain, I got a high tolerance for pain. When you getting beat up like that from a young age, fighting and all that stuff, that don't even bother you. You know what I mean? And so, I was always into something. You know what I mean? First time got brought, I didn't get arrested, but brought home from the cops. I was 8 years old in some handcuffs. Got brought home from by the law because I want to be out in the community in our neighborhood. They was fighting our neighborhood against this other neighborhood. I'm out there 8 years old squabbling. I'm on top of I don't even know why. Some dude climbed up on top because there's a little bingo hall over there. Where I was at, and dude climbed up there and was throwing rocks from the rooftop. So I climbed up a pipe. I'm up there squabbling this dude when the law showed. you know, I just been, that's my mind was so messed up, man. And
Wow.
anybody and everybody that I could take that anger out on, I couldn't beat up my mom. You know what I mean? I'm trying to take it out on them. And
Right.
so my mom whooped me on Tuesday. I'm going to school whooping somebody on Wednesday.
On Wednesday. Take it out on 'em.
Wednesday.
Right.
And
Facts.
so, yeah,
Facts. Say, bro, the most powerful thing I heard you say was you said when you shift your thinking, you had to change this before you could change anything. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? And if you paid attention in my book, chapter 1, it got changing your circle.
yeah. I
And
already know.
changing, yeah, changing your circle is so significant. Is basically what you said, man. Because if you don't give yourself a chance, how could you have a chance?
Yep.
Back then we didn't know, we didn't understand. So we was like ride or die hood. This where I'm at. This where I'm gonna die at. This where I'm gonna be at. If they kill me,
Yep.
they bring me right down the street anyway. That's where I'm living at. And it was so significant to me because the graveyard was one house away from my grandmother house where we grew up. So shit, I was going home anyway. You feel me? So
yeah.
and it's insanity to even think like that. But back then, I didn't think like that. I thought that was the most realest, illest thing you can ever ponder. You feel
Yep.
me? But it was damaging. You know what I'm saying? Not just for me, for anybody that hung around me, bro. Because one thing I did learn, man, I was a great follower. And when I say I was a great follower, I wasn't one of those followers like those what you call gophers. No,
Yeah.
I wasn't going for anything, but I was following the cunning and the conniving.
Yeah. Yeah.
I followed them. And then one thing, when I went to jail, when I was my first adult stint, I went to jail in the old time, and I was wilding in there, man. I was doing all kind of stuff. I ain't never played no punk games, and I ain't never stole. I ain't never gambled because I ain't like gambling. But everything else, boxing, basketball, football, I was into it.
Yeah.
Old timer set me down and said, "Man, you gonna run yourself to death." I'm like, "What you talking about?" He said, "You so smart, you stupid. You don't see how these little niggas running around here following you? Excuse my French, but you don't see how these boys running around here following you? You a born leader and don't even know it because you're being so stupid being a follower."
Yeah.
I said, "If I'm a follower, how can I be a leader then?" That was my retort. He said, "Because if you any great leader from history on up was first a good follower." And that stuck with me. No, I didn't get it right after that, but in the years to come, as I was getting it right after my second Jose, my third Jose, my fourth Jose, you know what I'm saying? Like DMX said, I'm the only walking the street with 4 felonies. You feel me? That was so lie to me. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that, either you're a rat or you blessed.
Yep.
And you got, you had, God bless you in a position to where you had a little something you can weasel your way out, and that's just what it was. I think my arrest record hindered anything. Man, my arrest records was, man, it was dumbfound. It was dumbfound. One time they stopped my wife. I'm not even in the car. And they questioned her, asked, man, this man arrest record is longer than Canal Street, and that's who you want to be with? Stop my girl, man. What is wrong with it? But that's just what it was with it. We can't catch him. We need your help. Look what he do. Look, he's dangerous. But in our mind, we living.
It's normal.
What is it?
It's normal.
Is it?
Nah, to us at that time, it was normal.
Man, is it? That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you, man. Yes, Lord. No, it's not normal. Well, was it normal to us? When you see them little joints and you see them boys go in there and go to talking to them people, man, you didn't talk too long. You ain't asked for your lawyer yet.
Yeah.
That's the first thing we talk. Little one, get in there, lawyer up. First thing, lawyer up, lawyer. So I ain't the first thing I know was lawyer. Hey, Clock can't talk to me no more. So you can't rat on yourself. Because that's all you're going to do. You're going to talk so much that you're going to rat on yourself.
Yeah, you tell on yourself. You out of there.
But these days, that's why I'm telling these young ones, bro. Y'all won't be killers. Y'all won't be dope fiends. And y'all won't be rats all at the same time.
Well, they doing it anyways. They put everything on social media. You know what I mean? They don't be posting. They already got a felony, but you on social media holding a gun, looking boosy. You know what I mean? He going because he had one in the little hip right here. You know what I mean? Now he got to plead out. And same thing. The youngsters out here, they posting everything that they doing, all this nonsense, and then when they get popped, they talking about somebody snitched on me. Ain't nobody you snitched on me.
Snitched on yourself. Yeah. Yeah, and just like you say with Boot, like, man, who nigga send the pictures of people. I said, but if you wouldn't have been slacking, they wouldn't have been to send the people no picture of you.
Yep.
They wouldn't have been to line you up like that. You were slacking. I know you was trying to protect yourself because what was going on at the time, but at the same time, bro, you got to think.
Yep.
You got to really think. Them people want you. Yep. They're going to find any way and play any kind of games to get you. And you fell right into their hands.
Yo, he got a lot more to offer than what he offering. He do. I believe that 100%. I believe God want to use that man. I believe he's more within himself. I don't know him personally, but I just believe that because I listened to some of his talks, so I know he got it in him. You know what I mean? So he's got to learn to feed one and starve the other.
Facts. Yeah. But sometimes that be that Achilles heel right there.
Yeah.
That be the biggest, that be the toughest mountain to climb when you're dealing with oneself. When you got to fight that inner man.
It is. I was actually having a conversation the other day, man. I was like, you know what? You can try all you want to lie to yourself, but you really can't lie to yourself. Now, what you can do is you can ignore it, right? You can ignore it. But when you lay down at night, you're like, yeah, nah, that ain't right. I don't need to be doing that. Or I shouldn't have done that. Or you know what? I need to apologize for this. Or I need to make amends here, right? You think about it, but then you're dealing with pride. You're dealing with your anger or whatever it is that you're dealing with that's stopping you from making those decisions and making those changes. You know what I mean? Because it's easier to continue down a familiar path than it is to take another path. You know what I mean?
Say, brother, what you just said, bro, it's so powerful, bro. I just told, and it's me, when I used to, before I really got it right and understood what I needed to do to get it right, anytime I had a problem, I diverted back to what I know how to do.
Yeah, survival mode.
Survival mode.
Yeah.
I diverted back, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of what I got up to. Man, I'm going right back to and thinking I'm gonna do it some this magical way, smoother than I did.
Yeah, man.
Man, they used to call me Lamont Sanford.
Yeah.
Let me see if you catch that.
That boy must.
You
I
big
tell
dummy.
you what,
You big dummy.
it was in Lamont Sanford. That one right
Say,
there.
I got a question for you, and this
Yeah.
might be my first question on my 7 questions.
What you got?
What was the most difficultest moment before you was released that you figure you had to prepare yourself for to re-enter society?
The most difficult moment preparing myself.
Yeah, personally for you.
Yeah. Um. Just being real. Just man, trying to figure out work. Right now, I'm gonna say something really, really crazy here that probably ain't nobody say. But I'm gonna tell you what I did learn in the penitentiary. I learned how to work. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't got no choice. Where unless you got some kind of medical, whatever, you working. You know what I'm saying? And so, from the whole squad to, whatever, whatever. Well, they had me in that chicken coop. Hey, man, that chicken coop, I'm shoveling chicken. And then finally, man, I got blessed to get a little bit easier job. But it took me probably 2.5, 3 years of some bull. You know what I mean? Because
Get in some air condition.
yeah, man, because all my captains and everybody, they were all Hispanic and black. So they weren't showing no love to me.
No love.
they gonna
None.
work me. They gonna work me. You know how I go. And so they gonna work me. So I'm over there working, right? And then finally, man, they seen how I was moving and all that. So he called me one day. He's like, man, he said, I'm gonna bless you with this. So I said, I bet. Man, they put me in that kitchen. You know what I'm saying? I was good with the kitchen. I'm good. You know what I mean? And so, but right before when I got that little thing, they said I'm going home. You know what I'm saying? Uh, I went and sat down. Remember, I went and sat down. I was talking to my partner Beaumont. He out now. That's my partner. So I was talking to him, and I said, bro, I said, because he was the same way. All we did was hustle. You know what I mean? That's all we did. And so I told him, I said, bro, we're going to have to go out here and work. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah. And so he had got in and was able to go and like operate forklifts and on the unit and all this type of stuff. And so he's like, man, I'm gonna go out there and drive this forklift. You know what I mean? I was like, man, I have no clue what I'm about to get out here and do. You know what I mean? I'm like, I have no clue. I said, but I'm gonna figure it out, I guess. I said, 'cause I ain't coming back here. When I came home, like I said, my first job, this is God, my first job coming home was this job right here, a missions coordinator. Now keep in mind, this requires a lot of administrative work.
Right, right.
I ain't had no computer. First off, before prison, I wasn't using no computer. You know what I mean? Because they weren't out there like that. They was out there, but wasn't nobody running around with laptops and iPads.
Yeah.
And so, uh, but I had taken. So there's another thing. Here's some game for anybody that watches this, and they got family down there. Man, I took the time my last 3 years again to educate myself. I took a computer class because I wanted to learn how to type. Because I already knew, reading them popular science magazines, which is the first time I ever seen an iPhone, was in a
Wow.
popular science magazine. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And reading those and seeing how the world's changing towards technology. I'm like, all right, we do a lot of reading down there. So I'm like, all
Right.
right, I'm gonna learn this computer. So I learned how to type. And then the lady, she started off on another program to put together spreadsheets and, Microsoft Word and all that. So I took them. I took the courses, man. You know, and so that was like, a couple years before I came home. But I still had the concept down when I came home. And so I just came home, bro, and they gave me this job right here. And I was like, well, what do I do? And they were like, well, we're still kind of putting the whole job description together because they were a fairly new ministry.
Right.
Uh, but here's the gist of it. I was like, all right, cool. They were like, so you're kind of helping us build the blueprint. Then we went from being a missions coordinator running all these outreaches all over the city in different, Fed Ward, Sunnyside, Homestead, Southwest, all that. I'm running all these outreaches, right, and different things like that. I'm pulling up with a truck and a trailer with speakers and all this for these outreaches. And then they were like, we're gonna launch a mission house. So we launched a mission house in Sunnyside. So I went from
Wow.
that to running a mission house with dudes that I was actually, some of them I was locked up with, came home and stayed with me. You know what I mean?
So you
And
was right there in the hood.
yeah. So I'm right there off Flocks and Scott. And so, you know, and again, ain't been home. I've been home less than a year, right at this time. And here I am in the hood and everything's going on around me. You know where it's at. Everything's going on around me. And so I'm over here doing ministry. I'm out here in the streets. I'm doing this, doing that. But I said all that to say this. I had to mentally prepare myself for a job. And when I got this, it came out of nowhere. And I was nervous as heck because I'm like, man, I'm probably finna get fired my first week. You know what I mean? Because as soon as they told me, so keep in mind, I'm learning how to use a phone still. My first
Mhm.
phone when I came home was a Note 3. You know what I mean? And
Wow.
and I was struggling. I got a video actually of my mentor. He was recording me. We was in Waco going out there to do some ministry stuff. We in a hotel and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Man, I'm trying to download the app." They told me I need to download the app. I don't even know what an app. I said, "What's an app? What do I got to do?" You know what I mean? He's like, "That's that little square thing on the phone." I said, "Okay, how do I download it?" I don't know technology like that, but
That's right.
they gave me this job that requires a whole lot of computer work, email.
Yeah.
Bro, I ain't know none of that stuff. And so, but by the grace of God, He gave me a brain where I could figure some things out, and He blessed me with a network of people that when I asked a question, they didn't judge me and look down on me. You know what I mean? They
That's right.
understood. They understood that I didn't have these tools and I didn't have access to these things while I was locked up. But they also knew and seen that I'm capable of picking it up if they would just show me. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And so, just make sure that, yeah, man, there's gonna be some things when you come home. They probably intimidate you, but make sure you got the right people, like you talking about, your circle, right? Make sure you got the right people in your circle, man. That one ain't gonna judge, two, they're not gonna enable you. You don't want nobody to enable you. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
But they're gonna push you. You know what I mean? And pour into you. That's it, man. If I got any kind of wisdom for anybody, that's it. But yeah, that was my biggest thing right there. I was really stressing on work because I never really had a job like that. I never did.
Check this out. All right. My second question to my seven questions is this. What do you think from being a previous incarcerated person, what do you think is necessary first week for brothers and sisters that's coming home from doing the long bid? What do you think they need to put in their toolbox first week, first day, first couple of hours home to give themselves a chance in society?
Well, hopefully, while they was in there, they was doing some kind of program or connecting with some volunteers that were coming in to serve, right? And stuff like that, whether it's through cognitive intervention, whatever kind of program, right? Don't necessarily got to be a Christian program, but hopefully you were doing something to connect with somebody out there that can help point you in the right direction. So for me, I built relationships with the ministry people that were coming in to serve. One of them was the guy that gave me this job. You know what I mean? And so, but he didn't promise me that job while I was locked up. I came home, I was serving. He seen how serious I was about making a difference, and they gave me the job. You know what I mean? So I would say make sure that you understand that your community. Make sure that your community, and it don't need to be a big community. You don't want a big community. I say no more than three. You need to find you three solid people that you can go to for different things. And you need a business mentor, you need a life mentor, like life coach type person,
That's
and
right.
you need a spiritual. So you need somebody who can help you with the business, you need somebody that can help you with the life, and you need somebody who can help you with the spiritual aspect. That's the
Most
very first thing. That's the very first thing. And here's why. Because all the stuff that they're going to pour into you and help you understand and learn is going to equip you for every one of those areas. You know what I mean? And so that's why that's important. I stay with that to this day. I keep them on my phone. I text them, call them, whatever. You know.
Wow, that's ideal because the hardest thing that I see, and you was just speaking about it, brothers come home and don't know the first thing about computer literacy, don't know how to work their phones, don't know how to. So I was saying, like, man, if they had a class they can come to, 30, 40 minutes every other, week, or every week, once a week, they can come get that,
Yep.
education, come get that training, to prepare them so when they do get that job offer, whatever level is on, they can deal with it. For as if they got to deal with the laptop or the phone. All right. My third question: how did your incarceration affect your family life?
Expound on that a little bit. What do you mean?
All right. Your significant other,
I
your
didn't have
woman.
one.
Oh, so you went to jail solo dolo.
Yeah.
All right. But you had kids though.
I had kids, but yeah, I wasn't with them. I was a, yeah, so
So when I'm saying,
I was a dog. Yeah, I was a dog. I was different.
did it make it
I was chasing money and all that, you know.
right? So what you saying? You wasn't in any life before you went?
My girls,
Yeah.
so my youngest was born while I was locked up, and my
Okay.
oldest, so her mom and them kept her away from me because I was too much involved in a lot of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Man, say, bro, you got so many brothers, and I see out here, in Texas, it's totally different. TDC and DOC, it's
Yeah.
totally, it's kind of different because in a way they make you get a significant other if you have any kind of finances, anything you need, basically done personally. If it's not your wife, they can't do it. Am I right or wrong?
Now other people can do it. You know, you just on the visitation aspect though. You know what I mean? Like they either got to be immediate family or they got to be your spouse in order to get contact visits. You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
So,
that's what it is.
so for
That's what it
that,
is.
yeah. So for that, right? Or it's got to be a specially approved type visitation.
So
You
that's
know,
why a lot of brothers be getting married while they in there,
doing, yo,
so they can get that contact.
get that contact, man, because you know you don't get no kind of contact. And so I don't care how hard, how gangster you are. I seen the toughest,
Affect you.
most killer person you can imagine walk into every visitation room, and as soon as they see their grandma, their mama, or their wife or girlfriend or kid, they go in there and they hug them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't have that human connection when you locked up. There's only one emotion showed in the penitentiary. That's anger. You know what I mean? Outwardly. You know what I'm saying? Everybody dealing with a ton of emotions inwardly, but outwardly they're only showing and expressing anger, and it comes out in different ways. But that's what it is.
All right. This my full question here. Uh, how have your incarcerated been? How have your incarceration negatively or positively affected your relationships? Like they can be friends, cousins,
Yeah,
brothers. Uh, you say you was a Rolling Stone, so I know it ain't no significant other. So,
yeah,
because like you said, when that supporting cast, and I came back to that with my fifth question because that supporting cast is very significant. It helps the win radius. You
yep,
know, it helps the win radius when you have that person, the group of people, like you say, the
yep,
big three, there to kind of embrace you.
yep,
Regardless of y'all past, differences or whatever, because I think before you get, like you said, man, before you get out there, man, you got to start healing those spots before you get there. You
yep,
can't think about trying to heal that when you hit those gates, bro, because game time is on.
yep.
So what you think about that?
Man, so I would say, family wise, the only person I really ever had in my life to really look out for me like that, family wise, was my granny. You know what I'm saying? And granny always gonna be granny. It don't matter. You know what I mean? She can watch the video of you doing whatever, and she's still gonna say that's still my baby.
It's
You
still
know what I
my
mean?
baby.
Or I can't believe that. You know what I mean? So, granny, outside of that, man, the people, that helped me be successful when I came home, they're not even related to me. It's just
Wow. That's
it's
what I
people
was looking for.
it's people God placed in my life. I lived at this guy's house, the founder of this organization. He let me stay at his house, right? Then the president of the organization, who was a retired, corporate executive out the oil and gas, semi, multi-millionaire dude. Then because the people I was staying with here, they were like, hey, they were gonna take in this young girl. So they were like, we're gonna have some changes. So, but we got you set up over here. So now I'm telling you, I lived a real life for about 6 months, Fresh Prince of Bel Air experience. Straight
Wow.
up. I ain't never been in no house this big before. And then so his kids were away at college. And so he's like, man, this is where you're gonna live. I'm upstairs, right? I'm upstairs. Upstairs, the opening area of the upstairs got this big old space. It's bigger than any house I ever lived in, just the upstairs part.
Mm.
And so he got a pool table, all this, got pool in the backyard. I got my own room, my own private bathroom and shower. I'm like, man, this stuff crazy, bro. And so, of course, I'm uncomfortable because I don't know these folks like that. But
Right.
at the same time, I'm not trying to go. I could have went and stayed with my granny, right? But I also know that my family and everybody be around. I try to be around it because I didn't want nothing to possibly derail
Derail
me.
you.
Yeah, bro. I didn't want nothing to take me off course, right? So I
Mm.
just stuck it out, man, bro. And we butted heads. Don't get me wrong. Me and my mentors, we butted heads. Because again, I'm coming from an environment where you're very strong minded. I marched to the beat of my own drum. I ain't never been gang affiliated, nothing like that. I just did me. You know what I mean? So I ain't never had to answer nobody but myself,
Right.
right? And so it was hard to take direction sometimes, right? Now I would receive anything that I felt like was going to elevate me, right? But the stuff that they tried to, tell me about my character, that stuff, then I become defensive. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
the truth's always hurt.
Yeah, bro. And so those types of things. And then just with family in general, my biggest thing was probably my daughters. You know, they had a lot of hurt, a lot of like trying to figure it out. Right? They loved me. I was writing on, all that type of stuff. They loved me and stuff. And my youngest, her mom, bless her, man. She was bringing my daughter to see me, when she could here and there and all that. And so I'm grateful for that because I got to at least kind of build that relationship with my youngest. My oldest, first time laying physical eyes on her was when I came home, you
Wow.
know, and that was the one we just celebrated her 22nd birthday. You know
22nd
what I mean?
birthday.
Yeah, bro. And so now you see me and her, we like this.
Right.
And so, and that's all God, but it also comes with time. It comes with you taking accountability, for things. And because an apology is one thing, right? And we say this all the time. But apology means nothing, man, if you ain't doing the work. You know
If
what I
you ain't
mean?
doing the work.
You ain't doing the work. If you ain't changing what it is or being different or whatever, you know, what we call, a pair of lips can say anything. You know what I mean?
Anything.
Anything. And so I need to see that action though. And so
Say,
for them, yeah, real quick,
no,
and
go
for
ahead.
them, yeah,
No,
what you
go
got?
ahead. No,
Man,
go.
for them, I just made a promise to them. I said, man, I'm never gonna go back to the penitentiary. I never sell any more dope. You know what I mean? I'll never do that again. And so I said that's my word. I'm here. You're not losing me. But that even took a few years for them to. They wanted to see like, hey, is this dude
Right.
really gonna be here? Can they put me in the same category as their mom? Meaning, can they depend on me like they do mom? See, dad didn't resonate the same as mom did,
Wow.
right? Dad was just a name. You know what I mean? It wasn't a title that came with like real emotion and things like that. It was like the name, just like my name is David. Dad to them is just a name. It didn't have that same connection that mom does. Mom came with like, okay, I call mom. I know she finna come through, pick me up, take care of me, dust off my knees if I scrape myself, all that. You know what I mean? And so I had to prove that. I had to prove that.
Say, David, this
Yeah.
is what I wanna. I commend you, bro, because man, I take my hats off to you because you know that healing process is a very difficult one when you dealing with young adults.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, kids that didn't probably heard anything about you. You know, then probably heard all kind of stories about you. Now it's your turn. You know, now it's your turn to not
Yeah.
really try to prove the people wrong, but just let them know who you really are and who you are today. Who
Yep.
you was back then, you're not that person no more. So that's a whole journey. Check this out. You you said the healing just ain't healing. Healing got to come with some accountability.
Yep.
Healing got to come with some conversations.
Yes.
Healing's got to come with some time. You know what I'm saying? You know, healing. They say time heal is the healer of wounds. No, that's not true. You know, yeah, time can be good for the wounds, but it's not gonna heal them if you're not pouring into those wounds, putting that disinfectant on. You know, just trying to nurture the wounds and it's talk to those wounds, tell them wounds who you were at that time and who you is now, and not just tell them, but show them, and that could be basically kind of hard, for them and for you because y'all living abroad, so they
Yeah.
got to really have time to wait. Let me see if this gonna run out. Well, he's still out here. It's been 5 years. He ain't going back. They count. Oh, all right, yeah. Oh, that. Oh, he got that. All right. All right. He got that plaque. Oh, he didn't create data recognizing for that. Oh, all right. All right. Look like he's sticking to his word. And then is you not really dealing with them, but you also convincing their mothers. You feel me?
Yeah, man. I had
The
to.
mothers.
I had to gain their trust too because like just full transparency. I'm gonna play this up. Full transparency. Like my youngest daughter. Her mom. Uh, she seen more. Well, my oldest daughter's mom did too, but my youngest daughter's mom kind of seen a little bit more of the violence that I was involved in. You know what I mean? I was never violent towards her, but she seen the violence and stuff that I was involved in and around, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, like for the first year, I wasn't allowed to go and just pick my daughter up. You know, they would meet me, you know, and then let me and her do her thing, and then they would come back and get her. You know what I mean? And so stuff like that, or wait out in the parking lot while we ate dinner or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, those are the things that we had to do, man. And like you said, I had to nurture those relationships. Then, they were both married. So now I got to meet their husbands, figure that out, deal with some stuff. One of them, he had some insecurities about me, you know. And I had a, man, I remember this. So I was walking into Best Buy to take my laptop to the Geek Squad.
Geek Squad.
And yeah, I was walking in there to do that, and God just placed it on my heart to call this dude because there was some back and forth on him going. Cause so they wanted me to just call his phone to talk to my daughter. She was young; she didn't have her own
Right.
phone, and I was like, all right, I respect that. You know what I mean? Cool. But he was having to go out of town to work in Corpus Christi for like 2 months, and so I just told him, I said, all right, look, I said, how are we gonna do this for me being able to talk to my daughter? You know what I mean? I was like, I can buy a phone and to give it to her. You know what I mean? Or whatever. I said, just let me know. And so there was a little bit of a heated discussion on that part when I did that. And so on my end, I was the heated one because I was like, hey, I said, if y'all think I'm gonna go 2 months without talking to her, y'all got me messed up. That ain't finna happen. So you need to get over it. And I at that time, I was still growing and learning, right? I was barely home. And so, I just told him, I said, look, dude, if I wanted your girl, I'd come get her. You know what I'm saying? Like straight like that. You know what I mean?
You
I
went
said, I
there.
promise. Yeah, I said, I promise, bro. I said, I don't want her. I said, I don't. You know what I mean? I'm on something different. That's your wife. You know what I mean? And so, but anyway, so I got conviction that day walking in there. So I called this man and I was talking to him. And I said, hey man, I said, I just want to talk to you real quick. I said, first and foremost, I want to tell you thank you. Thank you for being in my daughter's life. Thank you. I said, because the change that you brought into her mom's life, because her mom, she was stripping. You know what I mean? She was working at the strip club when they met, you know. And so, and snorting powder, she got into all that. She ain't snorting no powder when I was around because I wasn't snorting no powder. That wasn't my thing. And so she got into the strip club scene, though, when I went away and got with some dude. She snorting powder, popping pills, and doing all that. But then she met this dude. He got her going to church and all that. So I told him, man, thank you. You know what I mean? I said, thank you for being the man that they both needed. You know what I mean? I said, because you being that man to her helped her be a better mother to my daughter. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And now that same church that they still married. In that same church, my daughter is now on staff at that church. You know what I
Wow.
mean? So I had
Wow.
to tell him, man, I had to tell him thank you. Now my oldest daughter, her stepdad, that dude he's an alcoholic, he was a clown. You know what I mean? I almost had to put my hands on him, because yeah, he was talking reckless to my daughter when he was drunk one night. You know what I mean? And he called her a spoiled bee. You know what I'm saying? And my daughter, she called me, and she was like, "Hey, Dad, like this is what he said." And I said, "Okay, don't worry about it." Now they live in Mont Bellevue. That's about at that time probably about 45 minutes, 50 minutes from me. I made it there in 25. You know what I mean? Straight like that. I hit the beltway to 90, and I was right there. And when he came outside, I told him, I said, "I'm not here to fight you." I said, "I'm here to tell you, don't ever do that again." I said, "'Cause I promise you won't have a tongue to speak ever again to me." You know what I mean? I said, if she's being bad, you discipline her the right way. You'll never hear me say nothing if you discipline her the right way.
That's right.
But calling her out of a name or threatening her, any other kind of way that ain't the right way to discipline her, I said, we're gonna have a problem. You know, and it's just what. So yeah, man. And full transparency, I tell people all the time, the old me is dead. 100% he's dead. But that don't mean that some of those characteristics ain't in there and can be triggered. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, I got into it, I manage in automotive shops. That's what I do now. And so, I became a director at dealerships and all that. I've been in the corporate world. And so, technicians, they're men and, they think, some of them think they real tough and they like to get mouthy sometimes, right? Man, just a week and a half ago, dude popped off, said some crazy stuff. Really, he called me a liar. Now, I don't take too kind to that. So before I knew it, well, I was started talking calm first. I said, "Hey man, you need to watch. Don't call me a liar." I said, "One thing I'm not is a liar. So I'm 43 years old. You can't whoop me, put me in the corner, or ground me." I said, "So I ain't got no reason to lie about nothing." So let's get that straight. So I told him that. He turned his back to me. He said, "Man, don't talk to me." And it lit me. It lit me. It lit me before I could even know it. You know what I mean? Before I even knew it, and I went left. And I told him a few choice words. And I told him, I said, "I promise you, man." I said, "You look at me and you think something sweet." I said, "But I ain't the one to play with." I said, "I tell everybody up in this shop, you know." And so I said, "Don't be acting stiff and doing all that." Boom. Soon I calmed down, instantly, conviction, right? I went and I apologized. I said, "Hey, bro, that ain't me." I said, "I apologize, man." I said, "But I've done so much work, and then I had to do some self reflecting." And one of the things that I already know this about myself. See, I work so hard to carry myself in a certain way, right? As an upstanding person, right? And not lie, not cheat, not steal, not do none of those things. So when you accuse me of it,
Set you off.
it gets me, bro, because I'm like, nah, nah, nah. You know, that ain't it. I promise you, if I wanted to do any of that, you wouldn't even know it. I say I'm good with it. And so, like I said, God gave me a gift, and I used it for the wrong before. Now I use it for the right. And so, he's still upset with me, but we good. And so, but yeah, brother, like we still got things that will that will show themselves sometimes,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it though. I've only been home 9 years, and I don't make excuses. And I tell people don't use this as an excuse. But I'm 43, right? And I lived a certain way. I'm talking about from kindergarten, as far as I can remember back to kindergarten, right? I was in a certain environment, hearing certain things, subjected to certain things, learned certain characteristics and things like that. So you're not gonna undo that in 9 years, right?
That's
Not gonna undo that in 9 years. Now we've had some extreme, growth, right, and change in 9 years, but everything ain't changed, and we're not gonna be perfect here. That's why the Bible they talk about the regeneration process. You know what I mean? God slowly cleaning us up and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And so
rectify.
rectify, man, just
Look,
making things right.
let me tell you something. That was obedience. What you done. You humbling yourself and you apologizing. That was obedience. You was being obedient to what you learned, to the word. Even though sometimes we make mistakes and we step outside the boundaries, you
Yeah,
quickly gathered yourself and you was obedient and took accountability for what happened. So I go through it. I understand what you're saying, bro, because you can you can change, bro, so much, and you can work so hard at it. But when some people just don't see it.
yeah,
To them, you still a hustler, you still the gunslinger, you still So it's 0 to 100. But when they do learn you and see you really change, they try little tricks.
they
To set
tried.
you off, bro. And I be trying to like, man, it's a kill stick, bro. It's a kill
Yeah,
stick.
and
Look,
that's what.
I told you I had 7 questions, so let me get
Go
the
ahead.
6 questions in. Look, the sixth question is what what failure have you encountered since you've been home? What failure disappointment was the hardest to deal with since you've been home?
Hmm. Failure and disappointment. And I'll say this. So again, when you come home from prison and you weren't just sitting on your tail, just even though I did some gambling and stuff like that, I made sure I worked on me. You know what I mean? And read books and all that. I wasn't just reading no nonsense either. I'm reading stuff to help me learn, be better, all that. Cause I dropped out of school in the ninth grade. I finished ninth grade. I ain't go back. So technically, I got a ninth grade education. I got my GED while I was locked up, and I'm about 13 credits away from my associate's degree, right? So, but that's it. So technically, I just got a GED, right? Technically, um,
That'd be the smartest people.
but when I came home, man, I just knew what God gave me. Everything that I've accomplished today is written down in a journal, and I still got my journals. You know what I mean? Even, including this curriculum, right? And sometimes we can be so cocky in our calling. What God gave me. We can know what we're called to, right? And we can be so cocky in it, right? That we stop listening,
Mm.
right? To the people that helped us anyways, right? And so my biggest failure, man, is me and my mentors, we had a falling out over some things, right? Some of it was silly. I'll be all the way real with you. One of the things is, come on from the penitentiary and you start dating or whatever. But if you're doing ministry, it's frowned upon if you're having sex outside of marriage. You know what I mean? Rightfully so. It's biblical. I get it. Cool. And I do respect it. However, that's just not an area that I wasn't strong in, that I wasn't subscribing to either. You know what I
Don't,
mean? I just
don't judge
wasn't.
me. Don't judge me for it, though.
And bro, I'm talking about it went just like this. It was a conversation, boom. I told him, nah, that ain't happening, right? And then they found out that it was happening, And the only reason why I told him no, because I didn't want to disappoint him, not because I was intentionally trying to deceive him. I didn't want to disappoint him. You know what I mean? And so, and then we just had this falling out, bro. And this is how it felt to me. It was like, oh,
Come on now. Oh, don't tell me that, David. Come on now. Come on, rectify. Step on up. Man, we having a little technical difficulties right now, so just bear with me, get a brother time enough to pop back up. I know he gonna pop back up. This is before we close, this is getting too good. Yeah, man, bro. This has been a deep one, bro. It's been a deep one, bro. I hope y'all have enjoyed my guest, man. He's a full-fledged solid one. I will have him on again. You best believe that, because there's a lot of things we didn't get to touch on. 60 minutes goes so quick. You know what I'm saying? It goes quick when you into something that's fruitful and you into something that's just so powerful. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Sometimes you get to learn more than what you thought you was gonna learn. So this was a powerful segment, man. I hope y'all got to tune in with the brother. Man, bro, I tell you one thing, bro. I wish you could tap back in so we can get in with this last question. You know what I'm saying? But if not, man, oh, there you go, there you go, there you go. Yeah, yeah, you hear me? Oh, oh, man. I don't know what's happening with his issues, man. But come on, brother. I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
I don't know what. There you go. I
Oh,
don't know
man,
what's happening.
you gotta turn it around.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this thing.
It's looking at the back of your
Man, my laptop. I don't know what happened though. I don't know why it's doing that all of a sudden. Uh,
Oh, there you go.
yeah,
Now go ahead. You remember what you were saying?
yeah. Remind me real quick. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Uh,
Everything just glitched. Oh yeah. So they told me I can no longer be the missions coordinator, right?
wow.
Yeah. And so here's the thing, right? So I seen that. Oh, and then they asked me. They like, hey, 30 days. You can't do nothing like where you're on a stage, on a mic, no nothing. Now keep in mind, I'm running multiple programs for the organization, and I was running a mentorship program in three different schools, all of this, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. I was like, all right, I can do that. You know what I mean? Whatever, I'll do it. And so at the time, man, I was so upset about it because I'm like, all right, I know there's other people in ministry over here that are volunteering, serving, whatever. And I know they got stuff going on too. They ain't over here practicing celibacy and all this. You know what I mean? And
Right.
some of them are doing more. They out here drinking, doing everything else. So I'm like, I ain't got none of that going on. And so I was like, all right. So I tried to accept it, but after a while, and part of it, just being all the way honest, just part of it, I had pride, right? A little bit of arrogance, and like I said, I had that cockiness because I knew what I was called to, right?
Mhm.
So I just was like, you know what? I had a mentor that believed in me. He was like, man, he said, that's your curriculum. He said, all you want to do is be in the schools right now in the TYCs. I said, okay. He said, so just go do that. I said, well, I'm gonna do it. He said, start your own nonprofit.
Right.
So started my own nonprofit, Rectified Inc. Right?
Right.
Started that up, and then Hurricane Harvey came. When Hurricane Harvey came, a lot of the kids that we were mentoring and stuff like that, they were flooded out their homes. And so I told them I went to my board. I had three board members. Amanda Kite, she develops all of Halliburton's training material and curriculum. So she's the
Mhm.
one that helped me format my curriculum. God put all these people. I keep in mind, I wrote all this down in my journal. You know what I mean? in uh, in 2013, December 2013. I ain't come home till 2016. When I came
Mhm.
home, God put all these people in my life. to help me accomplish the things that I wrote down in the journal. And um, so we started a nonprofit. Hurricane Harvey came. I went and told them. I said, "Man, these kids, they can't pay attention in class or the mentorship program because all their personal belongings are in the front yard of their house. It flooded. They lost everything."
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Man, we gotta try to help them." But keep in mind, we ain't had that much funding. We were brand new. All that. Most of the money at the time was put in by the board members. You know what I mean? And so, man, I was just out here working in this neighborhood, and all of a sudden, man, God blessed me with somebody that came from a Fellowship of Christian Athletes, right? He came down from Seattle to come help out with the flood. He came into the community I was working in, started talking to me, heard my personal testimony, heard my mission and why I was working in that neighborhood. And he's like, "Man, I'm going to ask some friends to come down here," he said, "and, see if they want to help." So next thing I know, man, like 7 people flew in, you know. I didn't know these people. They were just good people, though. They were involved in ministry all over the world. And they flew in, and the main guy, he spent probably about 3 hours with me, just walking through the neighborhood, talking, took me out to eat, all that, and just hearing my heart. And he was like, "Man, so what do you need?" And I said, "Man," I said, "I'm trying to help them rebuild these homes." I said, "I'm trying to help them get in their homes. I was like, "And then they're gonna need some beds and stuff like that." He said, "All right." He said, "I gotta fly out tomorrow." He said, "And I'll be back in 3 days, 4 days, 3 or 4 days, and I'll let you know something." Came back 3 or 4 days, and man, next thing I know, boom, they got in touch with my board members. I connected them, and next thing I know, man, 150,000 was deposited. Then
Look at God.
another, then another 100,000 was
Look
deposited.
God.
Yeah, bro. And
Look
so
God.
I can say it now. I couldn't say it then, but I can say it now. So one of the biggest checks came from Hillsong, right? So if you know about the Hillsong Church in Australia, where the Hillsong Christian singing group came out of, or whatever. So yeah, man, one of the biggest checks came from them. But what they did was they were like, "Hey, we're going to donate it to Fellowship of Christian Athletes, right? And then they can donate it to you." You know what I mean? So that's
Wow.
how it went down, man. But keep in mind, I'm home. I came home 2016. Harvey happened in 17. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I ain't been home that long. I'm still on parole, and these people are trusting me with racks. You know what I
Right.
mean? Now, how I set up my nonprofit was I wanted to protect myself, so I didn't have any access to the money. You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
No access to the money because I wanted people to feel comfortable. You know what I mean? And all that. Plus, I didn't want to have to deal with none of it. You know,
That's right.
and that keeps me away from any kind of thing to do with any kind of money stuff. And so I would just make a list of things that we need, shoot the list to my board members, and they would either buy it or write me the check, and then boom, I go get it myself. And so that's what we did, man. So that's probably one of my biggest things right there was allowing, sin in my life, different things like that, and then pride to get in the way. That damaged some relationships. They're rebuilt now, but it took a little bit of time, and I had
Mm-hmm.
to learn some things. So the same grace that I want, I had to learn to extend as
Right.
well. And so I had to take into account that they were a new organization. They ain't never really dealt with people like myself and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Especially having staff. They had never had staff. Now this organization's huge, but
Mm-hmm.
at that time they was operating out of his garage. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, bro. And so, I had to look at everything from that perspective, and understand that, at the end of the day, I genuinely know that these people do care about me. They just didn't at that time, and we've talked about it, they didn't make the right decision. And now they handle people, differently.
Differently.
Yeah, they handle people differently that stumble in those
So
areas.
you had to be the sacrificial lamb. It's cool.
It is what it is, man. That,
Yeah.
hey, sometimes it's like that. But I tell everybody, man, God builds people for certain things, right? And unfortunately and fortunately, He's built me in a way,
Mm.
like you and many of my brothers. He's built us. I tell everybody the greatest revival that we're gonna see, and this is documented right now in this show. the greatest revival that we're going to see in the world, not in America, in the world, is going to be from people being released out those prisons all over the world. And here's why. We're the ones that are already built to handle any kind of opposition, right? We're built for it. We're built to fight, so when anything comes, all that foolery come around, stuff like that, our faith ain't gonna waver. You know what I mean? Because we stood on what we stood on before, which was some
Right.
nonsense, You know what I mean? So I'm gonna stand on everything I'm gonna stand on the word, and I'm gonna stand on what I know God put in me. You know
Straight
what I
business.
mean? Just like I stood on that. You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
And that's what it is. So I'm telling everybody, man, the hardest soldiers for the kingdom are the men and women coming out of the penitentiary, hands down.
Man, say, bro. But I can't let you go without getting this 7-1 in.
Come on.
7 question, 7 steps to developing a positive mindset, and we stand on that, man. The 7 question is, what would you do different now that you done gathered all the knowledge and all the information you have gathered? What would you do different or advocate to be done different, re-entering for the people that's coming behind you, re-entering society?
I would have listened to the wisdom. This is easy for me to answer because I give this to everybody, including Mike, who's a mutual friend of ours. Um,
Big Mike.
is is to listen to everybody that told me go slow, right? Go slow, right? And so I'm a sports person, so I understand sports. I played football, all that, right? So I understand on that football field when that ball snap, that play called that ball snap. If I'm a running back, I gotta let that play develop. You know what I mean? Or if I'm the quarterback or whatever, I gotta let the play develop. You know what I mean? In order for it to happen. So I can see the running routes, I can see the openings, whatever, right? And so, but when you in that box for so long, you like a bull, when they pop that gate, that bull just be jumping out there, and I had a plan. It wasn't that I didn't have a plan, but I'm trying to accomplish that whole plan in my first week home, and I'm running. But with
Right.
that, also, I feel like I've missed so much time that I got to make up that time, because now I'm home. People got houses, people got careers, and I'm here. I'm like, man, I ain't got nothing. I have 5 sets of clothes and 2 pairs of shoes, bro. That's it. I ain't have a car. I ain't have nothing, right? And all I've ever known was hustle, you know. Before I went to the penitentiary, I had my own limousine business, bro. Black tie limousine. I bought 2 limousines and a navigator, right? And started this business. I moved to Dallas because I wanted to get out of Houston. You know what I mean? Because I was too hot. I moved up there. Started this limousine business, black tie limousine, where every affair is a black tie affair. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so, yeah, bro. And so I've been knowing how to get the money, been knowing how to do it. But I was like, I don't want to do all those things.
That's
But
right.
I know my plan, so I don't need you to slow me down either. But I do know that in some areas I should have listened to that wisdom to slow down. But at the same time, they needed to listen to me, and they know that now because out of his mouth, the man that let me live in his nice little mansion, right? He told me straight up because I took him out to eat to apologize to him, right,
That's
for our
right.
falling out. And this is about maybe 2 years ago. And he's like, you know what, David, I apologize too. He said, because as a ministry, we didn't know how to handle somebody like you. And he wasn't
Wow.
meaning that, in a negative way.
Negative way. Right.
He was saying somebody that actually has that brain, right, and knows how to do things and get things done, right? And so because the misconception for those types of people that aren't familiar with guys like us from the streets and that was really doing something and making something move and all that, is that they don't understand that we already have a business
It
mind.
is mine.
We already know that. We just
Facts.
don't know the terminology. You know
Analogy.
what I mean? Now I know what a return on investment. All right, this is the game. I bought a pound of weed for 400, right? I made 800. I'm just doing simple math, right?
Never
I
met.
made 800. My return on my investment is $400.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so, and so when I started telling them like, hey, when I started learning business terminology and the definition, I equated it to the stuff that I did in my past life to
Yeah.
help me understand it. And
It
now
made
that's how I teach it to people.
right. It
And
made
so
it easier for you to
yeah,
understand it, to
yeah,
take the full advantage of what they're saying. And then guess
yeah,
what? All the brothers who just like us, they're gonna take to the information the same way.
yeah. Same
Not
thing. Merge.
glorifying. We not glorifying what we done.
No, 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 no.
We just saying how we equate that to what we doing today.
Yeah,
You know?
same thing. Like mergers and acquisitions. You know what I mean? Mergers. If my block is this block and your block that block, and we come together, guess what? We just merged our two businesses together. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. That's
That's
right.
what we did. Acquisitions. I ran you off your block and put my people on that block. Now I
That's right.
acquired that block.
That's
So,
right, man.
you
Get it
know,
out the way.
and that's how I broke it down to him. Now keep in mind, this man was a president of a company, so he's a businessman. So when I broke it down to him like that, he was like, okay. And then that's when he understood, like, okay, this is not a regular stereotypical what I think of when I think of somebody coming out of prison.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
so he apologized. He's like, man, because he didn't give me the credit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what I told him. I said, man, I didn't want y'all to treat me with kid gloves and like I was some kind of charity case. You know what I mean? I needed y'all to give me the blueprint. I can build it. Just give me the blueprint. You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? And I said, y'all wouldn't give me the blueprint. Y'all would spoon feed me. Here, do this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Do this. I'm like, man, I ain't got time for all this. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what it is, man. So that's probably my biggest one right there.
Say, bro, what I tell you this one, bro, we went a little over, but it was
Yeah,
worth
yeah.
it, bro. I really appreciate you for coming on Tuesday night, man. Mindset Therapy, Real Talk Podcast, Life After Time edition. Here at Mindset Therapy, again, we help men, women, and children believe in themselves. We offer 7 simple strategies to developing a positive mindset, and we stand on that. Go follow my man,
Hey,
David, man. Look,
everything rectified right
Rectify
there.
is in the building, man. Go
Hey,
find him on every major platform. Tell them where they can find you at, brother.
TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Just like that. Just
Yeah,
like, share, subscribe to the
all
page
that.
on YouTube. Like and share this awesome testimony, bro. And we're not finished with my brother David. He will be coming back for a refill. You know what I'm saying? And as you
Yeah,
can see, he's mad knowledgeable. So I will be, and another thing you said early in the podcast, he was like, man, all the people who showed you love was from you never met them before. They was from
nope.
different places, bro.
Yeah,
And that's the part where I was kind of hurt and stagnated because I thought my people was gonna show me so much love and be, even though I'm not talking about what everybody talking about, even though I'm in a different lane and refuse to, you know, refuse to switch over because that's not what I do. What I do is encourage, inspire, and just uplift. You know what I'm saying? If I can't uplift you and I can't say nothing good about you, bro, I don't want to say nothing at all. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Like all the podcasters is out there hustling. Think twice. Man, all the brothers who getting it, man, Gas, Mina, man. Look, yeah, hey, you got to get them boys they props, man. They doing their thing. And if you can't like what they're doing, if you got to hate it, man, don't say nothing at all. Murder doing his thing. Everybody doing their thing. They just in their own lane doing what they do. You know what I'm saying, man? Say, bro, no rap cap podcast is holding it down, man. Murder is holding it down. Hey, even my man, look, Terrence Gangster Williams, man, is holding it down, but so it's just I'm not in that genre, but that's still my people. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I still rock with them. I still listen to all of them. I still get my laughs on. I still get my, you know what I'm saying? That's my people. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? They do the same for me, and I respect that. But you're not gonna get me to compromise my integrity. You did going at, someone I say, I love. That's my people. Nah, man. Everybody, if the comedians can come together and get it together, the podcast can do it too. You feel me?
yep, yeah,
There's enough feel out here for everybody, bro. Everybody doing their thing. I'm behind the 8 ball, but I stand tall on mine like a soldier. You hear me? Again. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you for coming on, bro. And we will do it again, bro. I will send you everything you need. And we out of here, man. Good night, y'all. Thank y'all for joining.
God
That's
bless
what's
you.
up. Peace.